Let's go, girls. Come on.
From New York City to Los Angeles, Powered Up with Beck and Franklin is giving women of all ages permission to live the life they've always dreamed of. Why live in black and white when you can choose the brilliance of 3D and Technicolor? Each week, Sandra, Beck, and Linda Franklin and their high-powered guests will be here to cheer you on, to share their challenges, their successes, and what they've learned along the way. It's all about women supporting women. The stories and practical tips on sex, beauty, money, and so much more are designed to help you reconnect to the powerful woman you are. Fabulous knows no limits. Now it's time for you to expand your boundaries. Here are Sandra Beck and Linda Franklin.
Hi, ladies. This is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Linda Franklin, and this is Powered Up Talk Radio, and we're going to be visiting today with Nigel Wellings, and he wrote a book called Why Can't I Meditate? And Linda, if I had a dime for every time I said I can't meditate, I mean, you and I have talked about this forever. You're really good at this. I have such a hard time sitting still.
No, I'm not so good at it either. And, you know, I've been at it for a very, very long time, and I go through phases where I'm very religious in doing a practice, and then there's times where I don't do it for a long time. Now I'm back to it again, kind of in a different way, so we'll talk about that with Nigel. But, just getting all of those thoughts out of your head is difficult, and we're certainly not the only ones that feel that way. I think that, kind of turns off a lot of people toward the meditation practice because they sit there and they say, okay, I'm supposed to go into this wonderful place, and here I am thinking about, what I'm going to have for dinner, and they just get frustrated.
Well, I'm really excited to talk to Nigel because it's been a 2-year process for me, and I've got it down now, like, typical OCD fashion. Like, I have to make sure I've had dinner, I take my bath, then I stretch, then I go to the corner of my bedroom where I have a mat and a little pad. I have to make sure the kids are in bed, the dogs are in their kennels, my dad is asleep, and then I can, meditate. But what I want to do is to be able to do some of these things without having, my props or my rituals. And, when I read his book and I watched some interviews with him talking about fear and, some of these things that get in the way, I want to talk to him because I get in my own way. It's not any of these other things. It's just me getting in my own way. So I'm really excited to talk to him today.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I think that we'll get some really, really good advice on how to really make our practice more meaningful for us. And, I've been setting, that in this newest time for me doing meditation, I've been doing it for about 4 months now, and I've been kind of religious on doing it every day. It's not the traditional kind of meditation or the TM that I had done before, but you know what? It puts me in a very, very good place. I feel good doing it. I can't say I look forward to doing it, but I do it, and then when I've done it, I'm glad that I did it. It's kind of like going to the gym. I don't look forward to going to the gym, but once I'm there and I've done what I need to do, I really feel good that I've done it, and it's kind of the same thing. So I'm trying to do everything now to get myself into a healing place, into a wonderful place, the healing heart thing that I'm doing, and meditation is definitely part of it because but it doesn't, what I understand, it doesn't have to be just one thing. I mean, people can meditate doing gardening, or taking a walk or doing something that they love to do. It's just when you're focused on something that you love to do, kind of other things that are, going on in your head kind of stop because you're so focused on doing that thing. And that's to me, that's a wonderful way to spend part of a day or a half an hour or 30 minutes or 45 minutes or whatever you're doing just to be out of your own way.
Well, and that's a big part of it. And I want to tell everybody about Nigel's book because I got a copy here in my hot little hands. And first of all, I like it because it's big and thick. Like, there's a lot of meat to this. There's a lot going on in this book. And I want our audience to know that we were not paid to promote this book in any way. We just are bringing it to you because it's something that, we both received and are able to use. I know I'm able to use it. And I do like that it's separated in chapters that are meaningful to me. Like, I went right to grabby, grumpy, sleepy, jumpy, and maybe. Like, that was it. That's me. Right. But, had it been a couple years ago when I got divorced, I probably would have jumped over to, like, the damaged heart. But so guys and gals listening today, know that this is a resource book. Like, this is a big, thick, fat book that I can see myself highlighting and keeping and referring to. It's not, it's not a hard read. I'll say, like, I like the way he writes. It's very clear. Like, you can read it and enjoy it, and you don't need a dictionary or a thesaurus to figure out what he's talking about. So, I think when you demystify some of these things, like, why you can't meditate, these are some pretty, to me, they're complex topics because I couldn't figure them out, and it's laid out very nicely so you can source it like an oracle, and you can flip through it and go, okay, this is important for me, or this is what I want to read about. And there's exercises in here. So I think, as a book, it comes to me like a complete program. Now, the author is Nigel Wellings, and we're going to bring him in from England today. I think he's in Bath, I think. And I love this, Linda, because, P is my favorite letter. So he's a psychoanalytic psychotherapist who works
I want to
with
ask him exactly what that means.
I know, with a broadly contemplative perspective. When I bring Nigel on, I'm going to tell him I was the queen when I worked for the newspaper. I used to write headlines all with the letter P, like parchment paper proposes power play. So I got to tell you, this just thrilled me to no end. I really love words. And, without further ado, I would like to welcome Nigel Wellings to the show. And welcome. How about that?
Hello. That was funny.
It is a lot of fun. Thank you very much for writing this book that's so helpful for everybody struggling with meditation, which I think most people do at one point. So we're going to ask first, Linda wanted to know too, psychoanalytic psychotherapist. Okay, so what kind of shrink are you?
A stuffy one with a title like that.
Whoa, so what does that mean, actually?
What, stuffy?
No,
Psycho.
that I know.
It means that, for me, what it means is that we look back through our lives and we find patterns of hurt, and we try to see how those patterns are present in the moment and how they're affecting us, and get to make some different choices about whether we just want to go down the same old route yet again. That's a simple way of putting it.
Well, but I love that, because I think, we all do that. We kind of carry our trauma baggage forward, and it affects us in different ways. And I think some of that trauma baggage gets in the way with meditation, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that's what the book says.
Yeah, well, that's what I read, so.
Yeah, that's exactly what the book says.
So why did you write this book? Like, was it for people like me and Linda?
Yeah, I guess so. And me as well, not just you. We've been teaching mindfulness. I've actually been teaching it since about 1998. I started off teaching it to psychotherapy students, and then since 2006, we've been teaching based stress reduction, which I know you've got lots of in the States, and mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. We've had probably about 700 people go through those courses. We've noticed that many of those people have a great time on the course, and they really want to practice, and they really believe in practicing. But when they get to the end of the day, I wonder if I've lost you.
You know what's happening is we're losing a little bit since you're in England and we're here in Los Angeles. If you could shut off your video, maybe we could get some better sound quality because we really want to hear what you have to say.
Did you catch any of that?
Nope, not a word.
Ah.
We're like Stephen Hawking, like with an English accent going.
Well, I can hear you okay.
Well, now it sounds better. Did you do something?
Yeah, we turned off the visual.
Okay.
Okay, so back to our original question is who is this book written for?
Okay, so it's written for all of us. It's written for me and anybody else who's really struggling with their meditation, their mindfulness meditation. And I think the most important thing to say is that struggling with your mindfulness meditation doesn't mean that you can't do it. It means that you are actually doing it. And the nature of being mindful is to be mindful with the things that are difficult. So we've had a whole load of people go through our courses over the years, teaching an 8-week mindfulness program here in Bath since 2006. I think we've had about 700 people go through. And I noticed that whilst people really enjoyed the course and got something from it, at the end of the course, most of them were finding it actually difficult to keep on going. That got me interested. And the book came out of my response to that, trying to find out why they were stopping and how best to kind of help them on their way and get going again.
Well, I can see that because I've done a lot of different programs, and then you come home and you're like, okay, you hit your first roadblock, and it's like, okay, now what do I do? And I think this book really hits a lot of different roadblocks that we have with ourselves. Now, I need to take us to commercial break. We're visiting today with Nigel Wellings. The book of the hour is Why Can't I Meditate? How to Get Your Mindfulness Practice on Track. And this book can be found, it's produced by Tarcher Peregrine Penguin, and it can be found like in the body, mind, and spirit section of mindfulness and meditation. Now, when we come back from the break, we're going to learn some practical tips about not only why do we want to meditate, but what are some of the ways we get in our own way. I know I shared my own way. Linda's going to share how she gets in her own way, and we're hopefully going to come to some resolution by the end of the show so that we can what I call practice in peace. This is Sandra Beck and Linda Franklin of Powered Up Talk Radio. We'll be back after the break.
We've got lots more Powered Up with Sandra Beck and Linda Franklin after these messages.
If you could live your life truly standing in a place of peace, joy, and abundance, wouldn't that make your heart soar? Now you can, with Lessons in Joyful Living, with your host, Kimberly Rinaldi, Mondays at noon Central. Kimberly Rinaldi, having created a highly successful coaching practice, now teaches Lessons in Joyful Living. She believes in empowering others and that through it, you have the ability to break through any and all barriers, thus allowing you to reach your greatest potential and joyfully step into your life's purpose. What used to take weeks, months, or even years, she can now teach you in a matter of hours with her programs. For more on Kim and her show, go to her website, KimberlyRinaldi.com. That's RINALDI.com. Then join us for Lessons in Joyful Living with your host, Kimberly Rinaldi.
Have you heard? The pages of American Patchwork and Quilting magazine come to life on our new weekly online radio show, American Patchwork and Quilting. Join Pat Sloan, our blogging and quilt designer host, as she talks about the latest trends, ideas, and inspirations. Her guests include quilt pattern designers, authors, quilt shop owners, and our editors, all quilters, just like you. Call in with your questions. Get quilting tips from industry experts. Learn about free patterns. Hear behind-the-scenes stories from our magazines, American Patchwork and Quilting, Quilt Sampler, and Quilts and More. Get the scoop on free stuff and find out more about the best independent quilt shops in North America. To listen to a live show, tune in Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Just log on to allpeoplequilt.com/radio. To hear past shows, go to iTunes and search for American Patchwork and Quilting Radio. We hope you'll join us because we know that quilting changes everything.
We're back with Sandra Beck and Linda Franklin. Here's some more Powered Up with Beck and Franklin.
Hey, ladies, this is Sandra Beck, and this is Powered Up Talk Radio, and we are visiting today with Nigel Wellings, and he wrote a book called Why Can't I Meditate? How to Get Your Mindfulness Practice on Track. Nigel, I think so many of us intend to do this, and we see some of the benefits. I know that when I am diligent in my practice, I can find my 7 best reasons to meditate. I'm going to give them to you. I don't yell as much as my kids. I actually eat less and I eat healthier. I work out more. I sleep better. I look younger. I worry less and I enjoy life more. So those to me are my 7 compelling reasons to keep up with my meditation practice. But I seem to get in my own way. Even though I know the benefits of this, I feel like I have to have everything in order before I can sit down and meditate. And I would love to be one of those people who's like in the grocery store waiting for checkout and they can like meditate right on the spot. Are you able to meditate right on the spot?
I'm not quite sure what you mean by meditating right on the spot. That's what do you mean by that?
Well, I know the feeling that I want to get to in my meditation practice. Like I recognize that feeling. I know when I get there and I'm like, oh, this is so great. But I have to have all these little conditions met. Like I need to be fed. I need to have taken a bath because if I stink, I can't concentrate. Or if my hair is greasy, I can't relax. And then I need to stretch out my muscles because I tend to be a very hyper type A person. And I need to have my kids in bed, my dogs in the kennels, my dad asleep. Like everything needs to be in place. And then I can fully focus on me. And I was talking to a couple other like pro meditators that we've had on the show, these teachers, and they're like, oh no, you can like meditate in line at the grocery store. And I'm like, oh, hell if I can.
Okay. I think one of the things that we teach in the style of mindfulness meditation that we teach is that we're not actually trying to achieve any different state of experience other than the one that we've got. So for us, mindfulness is really about being present with the experience we already have and not trying to exchange that experience for another one that we deem preferable or better in some way. Okay?
Okay.
And so for me, that is a really big starting point. The ambition to exchange one experience for another, we actually see as something which puts us at war with ourselves and just creates more suffering.
Oh, thank goodness. It's caused so much suffering for me.
Well, of course it has. So if you got an idea about how you ought to be or would like to be when standing in the queue waiting to pay for your groceries, then that's just going to create something persecutory, which is going to make you feel worse. It would make anybody feel worse. But if you're standing in the queue and you notice that, I don't know, that you're feeling really, really irritated because the till girl is talking to somebody and you've got to get out to your kids, that's where the mindfulness comes in. So you say, oh, okay, I'm feeling really irritated. That's the first step. You've noticed it. Fantastic. Where am I feeling that irritation in my body? Well, I'm feeling it in my throat, in my chest, in my guts. Okay, so I'm just going to stand here. I'm going to feel this. I'm going to be present with it and just stay with it. And then what will happen is it will either evaporate or it'll be your turn to pay the till girl for your groceries, and it will just simply move on. So that's how I understand mindfulness. That's how we teach it. It's not about exchanging one state of mind for another. It's being really, really present with the state of mind we already have.
Oh, in your own country's words, that's brilliant. That is wonderful. Because that was really stressful for me. I was trying to do something, on direction that just didn't feel natural. It didn't feel normal, and I couldn't achieve it, and I felt really bad.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of that going on because, there's all these books on mindfulness coming out now, which are great books. They're wonderful books, but they can give the impression that you've got to somehow be a different person from who you are. And the reality is mindfulness starts with the person we already are, and the change occurs by giving up on the ambition to change.
Now, Linda, you had a question.
I do. I'm kind of a little lost today because I don't have any kind of cues here. But mindfulness, yes, we hear that word all the time now, whereas even 2 years ago we didn't. So what is the difference between mindfulness, awareness, and consciousness? Are they all the same thing, but just used differently, or?
It rather depends who's using them. And we can chuck in another word there, the word attention. So if we just go simple, I like simple, every single one of us has the ability to rest our attention on something that interests us. Mm-hmm. And most of us don't have the ability to remain attentive for very long. But with practice, the attentional span can become longer, it can become concentrated. And so attention and mindfulness are very, very closely associated. Attention becomes mindfulness when we begin to extend our attention and really notice very carefully the thing that we're resting our attention on. And of course, as we rest our attention, that means that we're being aware, it means we're being conscious.
Yes. I have another. When I started to do TM way back, I think in the 80s, when the Maharishi came to New York City, and I was there, and I went to one of his weekend seminars, and I kind of learned as much as I could learn in a weekend about TM. And it was so funny because it was a Saturday, and they gave us a mantra, and they did a whole little ceremony, and I came home, and I was going to go into my bedroom and do my meditation, and holy cow, I forgot my mantra. So I thought the world had come to an end, because a mantra is such a secret word that they can't share it with you. Well, bottom line is I did get my mantra, and I've had it ever since, and I use it. And I think I said at the beginning of the show, I've gone through periods where I do meditation all the time, and then periods where I haven't. And now that I've gone back to it, I tried TM again, but it wasn't really working for me because of the chatter. I couldn't seem to calm my mind. But one of our guests on the show, by the name of Dr. Joe Gallenberger, has these wonderful tapes. They're kind of meditation tapes, but they're more like exercises. And I've been doing those one of those particularly, called The Healing Heart, every day, because it really does calm me down, and it's 36 minutes, and I feel really terrific when I'm done. But maybe you would say, and I don't know, is that really a meditation, or does it matter if it's putting you into the same place a meditation would? I know
Okay.
That's long.
No, but it's actually very clear. No, that's a really good point you've made. So the first thing to say is that there are many, many different types of meditation, and different meditations produce different results. And a mantra meditation, just like the one you described, and also apparently the tapes that you've been listening to, are specifically designed to exchange one state, agitation, monkey mind, whatever, agitation basically, and create a calm state of mind which will replace it, a kind of entering into a transcendental space. That's a perfectly good meditation. It's absolutely legitimate. It's a great meditation, but it is different from mindfulness. Mindfulness, although it does have a calming element, it's not about trying to get us into a different space. It's about getting us to be present with the space we are already in. So in that sense, it's much more immanent. It's not transcendent. It's not exchanging one thing for another. It's being where we already are. So there's a fundamental difference there.
So what you're talking about is just like me standing in the grocery store, like with the exchange of experiences. That's why, like, sometimes I find Dr. G's tapes for me really helpful, because if I'm super stressed out, Nigel, or I'm really frustrated, I can use that to change my state, much like listening to music or, doing something else to change my state. I'd like to ask a question a little bit further on this. You write a lot about the damaged heart. You dedicated a whole chapter to just the damaged heart. And when you're in pain, like I think of the time, like, the same year I got divorced, my mom died after a long battle with cancer. I had like wave after wave of pain. And what I found when I would sit down to meditate is those waves would be engulfing. And I never knew if that was good for me or like necessary, or I was putting myself through more pain. Now, I know we've only got 2 minutes to commercial break, so maybe we'll let that question be answered at the next break. But why did you write the chapter, The Damaged Heart? Was it for people like me in that state?
I think the whole book is for people like us in that state. The how to be with difficult emotions is what the entire book is devoted to. That chapter is there's a little bit of controversy in the mindfulness world about whether we should address two subjects, compassion and kindness, that have always been associated with mindfulness. And in that chapter, I wanted to say, yes, it's really, really important to have compassion and kindness right up there.
See, and that was something that was very hard for me, because I was like, is it compassion and like kindness toward me, or compassion and kindness towards the person who hurt me or left? I kept getting confused in that chapter. But I need to take us to commercial break. We're here today with Nigel Wellings, and his book is Why Can't I Meditate? How to Get Your Mindfulness Practice on Track. When we come back from the break, we are going to talk about the damaged heart, and we're going to talk about how to be with difficult emotions, because we always have them, we always experience them. And Linda, I know you have something to say on how to be with difficult emotions, because I turn to you for that all the time. Did we lose Linda? Oh, maybe we lost her.
No, I'm still here. I'm still here.
Yeah, I just wanted to, we've got these difficult emotions, and you've been really good at helping me express them.
Okay, terrific.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to take us to commercial break, and we will be back after the break with Nigel Wellings. The book of the hour is Why Can't I Meditate? So if you can't meditate, this book is for you. More after the break.
We've got lots more Powered Up with Sandra Beck and Linda Franklin after these messages.
This is for all you girls about 42. Tossing pennies into the fountain of youth.
LinkedIn. It's a great tool and a great way to do business in today's social media driven world. And Carol McManus is the LinkedIn Lady with the LinkedIn Lady Show, Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. Eastern on allbusinessradionetwork.com. The LinkedIn Lady Show is designed to inform, inspire, and educate businesses. Every social media site has a specific demographic, personality, and purpose. And the LinkedIn Lady will interview a variety of guests, such as business owners who can showcase their business and talk about how they use social media, such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google+, Pinterest, and of course, LinkedIn. For more on Carol and the show, check out her website, LinkedInLady.com. As trends change and new applications become available, the LinkedIn Lady Show will bring that information to you in an easy-to-use, fun, and engaging way. Every Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. Eastern, it's the LinkedIn Lady Show with Carol McManus on allbusinessradionetwork.com.
Secret Cuisines and Sacred Rituals is a quest, a place, and a feast. Join host Vilasi Venkatachalam every week to explore myths, mystique, old medicine, and brilliant modern solutions through a dazzling kaleidoscope of cuisines, cultures, and cures. This is the place where tribes gather, strangers and familiars, to be memory keepers and makers of our evolving, enduring, evergreen, spoken legacy of wisdom and ingenuity. In Veloci's words, when we do old things in new ways and new things in old ways, we paint with an inspired palette, weave our own healing traditions, and become our own guru. Veloci is a troubadour of secret cuisines and sacred rituals. She collects stories of wisdom, ingenuity, and grit. She believes wellness and transformation happen when you stand at the threshold of delight and discovery. She displays her hidden penchant for drama when she leads the safari at the supper club. Her favorite pastime is to extol the marvels of cuisines, cultures, and cures. To her audience in workplaces, seminars, and salons, her mantra is, be your own guru. She is a biochemist, botanist, and alchemist who likes to churn delightful, useful things from a brew of art and science, ancient and evolving, old medicine and new cures. Join Veloci every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, only here on the Woohoo Radio Network.
We're back with Sandra Beck and Linda Franklin. Here's some more Powered Up with Beck and Franklin.
This is for all you.
Hey, ladies, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Linda Franklin, and this is Powered Up Talk Radio, and we're visiting today with Nigel Wellings, the author of Why Can't I Meditate? How to Get Your Mindfulness Practice on Track. If you like today's show, you can find us at TogiNet, that's TOGINET.com, or you can check us out on iTunes at Powered Up Talk Radio, or you can go to our website, powereduptalkradio.com, to find this episode and hundreds more like it that have to do with mindfulness, spirituality, the afterlife, you name it, we've covered it. And without further ado, I want to get back to our expert, Nigel Wellings, because he writes this chapter, The Damaged Heart. And before we went to break, Nigel, you said that this book was designed or written to help us be with difficult emotions. And one of the things about difficult emotions is they're so difficult. And when I was going through I know it's so funny, but it's true.
Yep.
And when I was going through my own trauma, I didn't know where the line was from, like, feeling sorry for yourself, not moving on, moping, focusing on things you shouldn't focus on, because I kept getting confused, going, well, if I'm still feeling these emotions, then maybe I need to focus on them till I can feel them enough for them to pass through me or go on. I got myself all tangled up, and I would just love to know your take on difficult emotions and being with them.
Okay. You're going to find what I'm about to say. There's just so many people saying exactly the same thing at the moment, both from the psychotherapy side and also from a Buddhist side. So the way that we teach how to be present with our difficult emotions, but actually all emotions, good and bad, is when we notice that we're feeling something, whatever it is, the first step is to recognize it. Many of us are experiencing all sorts of stuff, but we're not really conscious that we're experiencing it. We're looking the other way, but it's still going on. So the first step is to be able to go, yeah, actually, I am feeling something. Next step is to say, where am I feeling that in my body? Where can I feel that emotion in my body? And then take our attention, rest it on that place, and just simply allow ourselves to have the sensation in our body, breathing around it, trying to be accepting of that experience. And this is the really important part. When we notice that we're whipping back to the storyline, he said this, I said that, I don't want this to happen, when is this going to stop? It's so unfair, no one listens to me, all that kind of stuff. Noticing it, dropping it, and then coming back to the sensation of the emotion in the body, breathing around it, allowing it to be there, not trying to get rid of it. Okay? So that's the method. And what will happen is that eventually, either fast or short, we find that the emotion subsides and disappears. No emotion lasts forever. And then once we do that, we need to do it again and again and again and again and again, building up that ability to drop the storyline and go to the felt sense of the emotion in our body, breathing around it, noticing it, how it comes and goes. Simple as that. Really difficult.
Well, but you're talking about, like, I'm just going to translate it into, like, idiot speak over here, but you're talking about the broken record. Like, you know, I've noticed some of my friends, you know, it's a broken record. They keep going back. You call it a storyline. I call it a broken record. They keep going back to that storyline, and it elicits the same set of emotions, and then they get frustrated, and then they hurt, and then they cry, and it's like a hamster wheel. And what you're talking about is to try to break the cycle. Do our emotions come first, and that triggers our thoughts, or do our thoughts come and then trigger our emotions?
I think it's a figure of 8, but our bodies are essentially emotional. Bodies and emotions are more or less one and the same. And so our bodies are continually creating emotions like dislike, indifference, and then much, much stronger ones. And then, of course, we feel those emotions, and then we have emotions towards emotions, and then we start cascades. I don't want to feel angry. I feel ashamed of feeling so jealous. You know, I can't allow myself to be happy. So we kind of create a figure of 8, and we do need to break into, what did you call it, a broken record? I think that's a great way of talking about it. So we need to break into our broken record and say, where am I feeling that in my body? And then just letting the storyline go, letting the broken record go, and just being present.
Stories that we create about ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we have these stories that we create about ourselves. And, you know, Nigel, I always thought of it about like a record, like, you know, the old records or the CDs, and then it would get a scratch in it. And you listen to the music. And then forever, when you hear that song on the radio, you wait for that skip. You wait for that, you know, glitch in there. And so one of the things I tried to do, and I'm curious, just, you know, because you're so skilled at this stuff, I tried to take those memories and make a skip in it, like make a scratch in the record, make a scratch in the song. And then I actually added some music to it in my own head, like silly music. So it kind of broke up the emotion that was attached to the story or attached to the memory. Does that make any sense to you?
It does, but it's a good what we're talking about here with the mindfulness is actually being really present with the experience, the emotional experience felt in the body as it is, without trying to change it. Because by not trying to change it, we give it a chance for it to change itself. So again, there's that fundamental difference about accepting, being present, staying with, and then the more kind of normal thing that we do, which is, I don't like this, let's find some clever way of making it feel better. So there's a difference there, isn't there? There's really quite an important difference.
Well, there is. And I find sometimes, like, I got stuck in certain really painful memories, and that's when I went to, like, scratching the record, you know, scratching the song. And did I not leave long enough? Like how long does this take for you to, like, feel through a memory over and over, or feel through a pain? Like, you know, the pain of your mother dying, that's not going to, like, evaporate overnight. So when you do this and you come to this body acceptance and, you know, feel the part that's hurting, which is usually like my heart area, did I just not give it long enough? Like, you know, is this something, you know, that happens over weeks or months or years?
Or maybe we're talking lifetimes. I mean, feeling a pain in your heart because your mother dies isn't something that you want to get rid of, is it? But it is something that you might want to be able to be happily present with, because it's actually a natural and a loving thing to have. If you were frightened of that pain, and so you kept on kind of skipping away from it, that's where the problem would be, not having the pain, but your relationship to it. We talk about this as the 2 arrows. So we say that life is full of painful things, and there's absolutely nothing that we can do about it. And perhaps many of those painful things are appropriate, like the pain of losing someone we really love. So that's the first arrow. We're wounded by the things that life shoots into us, and we have no
Nigel?
Not wanting it. Lost you again.
Yep, we lost you again. So if you can repeat that last thing, that would be great.
How much did you lose?
Everything past, life is very painful, and these things that in life come are painful.
Okay, so that's the first arrow, isn't it? That's life shooting things into us, events into us, experiences into us, which we have no control over. And they're painful. Much of it is very painful. The second arrow are the arrows that we shoot into ourselves, which we do have control over. And those arrows are our emotional reactions to the first arrow. So maybe I find, my father dies, let's say, and I'm really upset about that, and I have no control over it. And I don't want to feel that upset. So I would do anything to avoid it. I would try and distract myself or make up nice stories about it. But I don't actually want to stay with the pain of that loss. So that my not wanting is actually the problem. It's that not wanting which is causing much greater pain. So if I can find a way to accept the pain, to be able to be present with it, not frightened of it, allow it to be there, then I'll stop shooting the second arrows into myself, and it will be that much easier. It doesn't mean that life will be without pain and everything will be kind of hunky-dory. It means that I'll be happy to have whatever emotion I have. It's what we call equanimity, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's what I call, don't beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up for your feelings. I tell that to my kids. It's look, something happened, don't beat yourself up over the feelings you're having. You gotta cry, let it out, or punch it out at the punching bag, something to feel it. Because if you don't, I know, I resisted a lot at the first with my mom with grief, because it was such an uncomfortable feeling to feel so overwhelmed and lost and, just all these feelings. And then once I sat with them, I realized they weren't going away. And, maybe my expectations were wrong because, losing a parent, I was very close to my mom, was extremely painful for me, or somebody like my dad losing his wife of 52 years. These things maybe I thought would get healed faster because of my mindfulness practice. And obviously I don't have any meter to know that. But I love what you said about, life is going to shoot arrows at you and things are going to be painful. When we come back from the break, I want to talk a little bit more about how mindfulness and meditation can ease some of these long-standing wounds. We're visiting today with Nigel Wellings. The book is Why Can't I Meditate? How to Get Your Mindfulness Practice on Track. And his name is spelled Nigel, last name Wellings, Wellings.
We've got lots more Powered Up with Sandra Beck and Linda Franklin after these messages.
Information about book publishing is power. The power to change your authoring life. And the power to change the lives of your readers. So join us for Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific. You'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now. As the book shepherd, Dr. Judith Briles is in. And each week, she will include publishing professionals that will reveal tips and secrets to the author's journey. If there is a book in you want to listen, learn, and yes, call in with your questions each week. For more on Judith and what she can do for you, check out her website, thebookshepherd.com. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by Author You and The Book Shepherd with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. If you're ready for a big change in your work, your career, your happiness, your life, it's time for the $1 Million Mindset with Marla Tabaka. Monday afternoons at 2, 1 Central on TogiNet.com. Marla believes that with the right mindset, anything is possible. Join us as successful life coach Marla Tabaka inspires you and her clients to explore, discover, and live your dreams by developing what she calls the $1 Million Mindset. Marla will inspire you to take action on your dreams and reveal secrets to success that will help you realize your own unique power. Tune into the $1 Million Mindset for heartwarming stories with Marla Tabaka. Learn tips and tricks to building a successful business and unlock the secrets to creating a happier, more balanced life through abundant thinking and attraction power. For more information on the $1 Million Mindset, go to our website, marlatabaka.com. That's MarlaTabaka.com. It's the $1 Million Mindset with Marla Tabaka. Monday afternoons at 2, 1 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
We're back with Sandra Beck and Linda Franklin. Here's more Powered Up with Beck and Franklin.
Hey ladies, this is Sandra Beck and I'm here with Linda Franklin, and we're visiting today with Nigel Wellings, the author of Why Can't I Meditate? How to Get Your Mindfulness Practice on Track. Now, this is something that I want to talk to Nigel about because there's a lot of self-help books out there, especially if you're struggling, from loss, like the loss of a pet or the loss of a family member or spouse, or the loss of, like in my case, my mom, or, many of us have gone through foreclosures or all sorts of difficult things. And one of the promises that was made to me in a couple of these books was that I could heal better. I could heal faster. And Nigel, you've got a very, very powerful take about healing better and healing faster with respect to our emotions.
Yeah. I think what I've said is that emotions are natural. We're continually being emotional. And the problem isn't actually being emotional. That's natural. That's how we derive a sense of value through our emotions. But the problem is that most of us actually can't be present with many of our emotions because we're frightened of them. They're just too powerful. They're just too overwhelming. We don't approve of them. And if we practice mindfulness, we can turn towards those emotions and befriend them, accept them, allow them to be there, feel them in our bodies, and it will be okay. So it's a kind of way of just making friends with ourselves.
And what you're talking about is like, you're not talking about acting on these emotions. You're talking about recognizing and feeling them and acknowledging them, not necessarily letting them fly for everybody who's around.
No, I'm definitely not saying that, because that would just be acting them out, wouldn't it? And many of us act out our emotions actually as a way of not feeling them. Nature gives us two ways of dealing with emotions we can't deal with. One is either repressing them, that is unconsciously not allowing ourselves to know that we're feeling them. And the other way is to completely identify with them and just do anything that the emotion wants. So the emotion has us, rather than us having our emotions. What mindfulness does is it goes down the middle of those two, and it says, let's be really, really conscious and fully aware of what we're feeling, but at the same time not let those emotions necessarily generate behaviors which are then destructive to ourselves and to others.
Well, and this brings me to something like interesting that I just want to ask, and I know, you're the expert, I'm not, I'm just, the person that experienced it. In my opinion, I find that there's people who repress them, people who get engulfed by them, and they just make it their whole world. But then there's like another set of the population that takes their emotions and makes them yours. And, I was married to a guy who he could have a really bad day, and then he would accuse me of having a bad day. And unfortunately, I'm like little Mary Sunshine. I pop up in the morning happy, and I'd be like, I'm not having a bad day. And the things that he was feeling was kind of put on me like a jacket. And I think there's quite a few people that seem to put whatever they're feeling on you and then accuse you of having those emotions when you're just kind of sitting there going, oh, well, I had a good day. I mean, that's a part of the people do that.
Yeah, in my business, that's called projection. It's, again, it's another way of not feeling something, isn't it? We can't bear to feel it in ourselves. And so we maybe project it into somebody else and then criticize them for having it.
Yeah, and I would sit there going like, am I in a parallel universe? Because I just had a great day at work and came home, and all of a sudden I was told like I'm being crabby and upset and feeling this way and blah, blah, blah. And, I really had no idea what was going on. Linda, are you with us? It's hard for me to see. Skype is not playing nice today.
No, I am having a wonderful time just listening to you two, and I didn't want to interrupt. So, yeah, I mean, it's really wonderful information. I know that when I'm, in that place, and you call it a broken record, and I call it kind of Groundhog Day. You remember that movie where,
Yeah.
He wakes up every morning and the same thing just keeps happening and happening. So I think, we kind of have to realize sometimes that that's what we're doing to ourselves. So I don't shy away from the emotion that I'm feeling. I try to just look at it because I feel everything that we're experiencing in life is there for a reason. And if I can kind of figure out what the reason is, sort of like mindfulness, then it's going to ease it up. Is that am I wrong in thinking like that?
Ease it up. What does that mean?
Well, that means, I don't want to go through Groundhog Day. My job is I'm hoping to advance so that I'm learning and being able to, I think that what we want to do is we want to be happier in life. We want to be more loving in life. We want to feel that we have a purpose in life and that, we're here for a reason, and it isn't to kind of dwell in our own stuff. We want to kind of look at it, understand it, and try then to figure it out.
Yeah, of course that's right. Absolutely. Yeah, one of the ways that the mindfulness courses talk about this is another one, which is automatic pilot. But most of us are driven along by automatic pilot, so that's automatic thoughts, emotions, behaviors. And we just kind of react out of those automatic pilots. And they often create an enormous amount of suffering for ourselves and everybody around us. And so by becoming conscious through practice of mindfulness, you can exchange unconscious reactivity for more conscious responses. And hopefully the responses will be wiser and kinder.
Yes, I know that, since I was a kid, if I'm in fear, then I lash out. That's I don't even think about it. That's normally what I do. And as an adult, decades and decades later, I realize that when I act like that, the basis of that is fear over whatever that thing is. And so I try to say, to understand it, and then say, well, there's really nothing to be so afraid of. Go down another route, because if you're going to go down the road you always go down, this is going to be the result, and you don't like the result.
Yeah, and that's a great way of using your rationality to address your fears. I think if we go back to mindfulness, then we have a slightly different approach there. So whilst that's really good, absolutely great, we can also do something a bit different. We can say, okay, so I recognize that I'm feeling frightened. I realize I'm being really crabby. I know that's probably to do with fear. So what's going on in my body right now? And then taking our attention, feeling into the inside of us and just noticing what's going on there. And then staying with that felt sense and just being present with it. And that way we actually make friends with the fear rather than trying to rationalize it out of existence. And I think that's probably a much more powerful way of dealing with it, because anyone who has really been confronted with very difficult emotions will know that their rationality isn't much of an armor against it.
Well, do you find that it's like, for me, like I have this funny thing, Nigel, when I got divorced, I went through a financial crisis like most divorced women. I had little babies and I had to feed them, and could barely pay my mortgage. And I got really frightened to go to the mailbox because there was always ugly things like from the attorneys or the courts and bills I couldn't pay. So I have this like weird thing that happens when I get the mail. And, even if it's a check, my heart starts to pound. But if it's a pile of bills, now I have the money to pay my bills comfortably, but I still get that like weird old like, oh my God, these bills, and then I don't want to open them, and they sit on my desk like a little like, burning fire over in the corner till I finally deal with them. but I notice that I get really frightened, and I try to breathe through it and go, they're just bills. You have the money to pay them. Breathe. They're just bills. They're just things on paper. How do you rewrite that? Like, I try to sit with the feelings. I recognize it. I know that they're not real fears. They're like leftover fears. Where do those go?
Yeah, you've been left with a little bit of a trauma, haven't you, from the post at that really difficult time. The method for dealing with trauma, small, big trauma, is much the same as I've been describing. But I think what happens for many of us when we practice mindfulness, we actually begin to get in touch with a level of feeling which much of it or some of it may be traumatized. At that time, it's really helpful to go to somebody who knows how to support and hold us in a place of mindfulness with relationship to that trauma and can help us move through it. It's very, very difficult to do it on our own. And I think it's really interesting that just about most of the newish, cutting-edge treatments for trauma, like EMDR, for instance, have a very, very large component of mindfulness within them. They're basically mindfulness processes. Mindfulness still works, but sometimes when we really hit trauma, it helps to have somebody who can help us hold the frame of mindfulness as we learn to move through those experiences and convert them into ordinary memory, not trauma memory.
Because the reason I share that, Nigel, is a lot of people think trauma is because you got in a plane crash or you were in a war. And, I don't think many people, I know I didn't until I started really, Linda was so great about getting me to read a lot of this stuff, to realize that whatever's trauma to me might not be trauma to you, but it doesn't mean it's any less less traumatic.
No, that's absolutely right. Absolutely right. Trauma is basically fear which has got stuck in the system and isn't able to move through. It's kind of frozen, and we need to defrost it and help it move through. And that means we're back to the 2 arrows again, aren't we? Most of us are frightened of traumatic stuff. So we need to defrost being frightened and help it move through.
Nigel, where can people buy your book? Because I think this is very helpful for a lot of people.
I believe it's just been published by Tarcher in the States on April the 12th. It's been here for a year, but you've just got a new version with a bright yellow cover, which I've only just seen and am somewhat surprised by.
Well, I have a galley copy. I have an uncorrected proof for limited distribution, so I'm going to get on Amazon right now while we're still on the air and find out why can't I meditate and see what the cover looks like. And we've got 1 minute. I better be fast. Oh, yeah, it's that same cover. It's bright yellow.
Mine's kind of gray blue.
Yeah, you have a gray blue, but the birds are the same, only in your case, your little bird flying out of the cage is yellow. We've kind of got reverse colors here in the States. So, Nigel Wellings, Why Can't I Meditate? How to Get Your Mindfulness Practice on Track. $13.73 on Amazon Prime. You're going to want to check it out. This is a great book. It's a great book to have in your resource library. I'm going to be honest with you. It's probably not something you're going to sit down and read cover to cover, but it is a great resource, and you can pick it up and start learning and improving, your life today. Nigel Williams, thanks for being with me. Linda Franklin, thank you for being my lovely co-host. We'll be back again next week.
We're so glad you joined us for Powered Up with Beck and Franklin. Sandra Beck, Los Angeles-based single mother and technology company owner, knows what it's like to be fit, funny, and fantastic in your 40s. Linda Franklin, a New Yorker with a successful marriage and